What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the Detroit Lions and the Carolina Panthers are set to kick off in just a couple of days, and although last week's victory was fun, although I'm having fun thinking about it, thinking back on the first time we won at Ford Field in over 12 whole months, which is just a glorious thought, it is time to move on, and it is time to preview this next matchup, our matchup upcoming versus the Carolina Panthers. Now, in today's video, I will be going over this matchup, comparing the offenses and the defenses to each other, comparing some of the weapons, and overall just, previewing this matchup to see who should have the advantage when they kick off in Carolina this Sunday. Now, before we get into the video, if you are new to the channel and are enjoying this Detroit Lions content, please consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. It only takes 2 seconds out of your day and it helps the channel out so much. So if you could do that, just take those 2 seconds to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out and it helps the channel out more than you could know. But with that being said, and without any further ado, let's get into this Week 11 preview and see how these two teams in the Detroit Lions and the Carolina Panthers stack up against each other. Now, the Detroit Lions are currently a 4-5 football team, coming off a very close win to the Washington football team. Obviously, came down to a last-second 59-yard field goal attempt by Matt Prater, which he absolutely smoked, sent it straight through, being clutch as always, and put the Lions at 4-5. But the Carolina Panthers are coming off a very big and a very tough loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, at the time were coming off a huge loss and were very frustrated and basically took all their anger out on the poor Carolina Panthers. So they're coming off quite a big loss in that regards, but just because they're coming off a big loss doesn't mean that they are necessarily a bad football team, especially considering they played one of the better teams in the league last week. Now, starting off with the Carolina offense, the Carolina offense has been okay this season. It hasn't necessarily been an elite unit, it hasn't necessarily been a great unit, but it also hasn't been a bad or underwhelming unit. Now, the Carolina Panthers are 12th in offensive yardage this season. They're 12th in plays ran this season. They are 10th in yards per play. They have the 19th most turnovers, so they are very low. They haven't committed a lot of turnovers as an offense. They're 7th in first downs ran, and they are tied for 20th in scoring offense. So, looking at those stats, obviously, the Carolina Panthers aren't an elite offense, right? They're not going to put up huge yards. They're not going to put up huge numbers, but they're also not a bunch of slouches. Just because they're not going to put up Mahomes yardage, they're still going to be able to put up yards. They're still going to be able to move the ball. They're still going to be able to be efficient and score touchdowns at a decent rate. Now, looking at the third and fourth down conversion stats for this team, the Carolina Panthers right now are currently 20th in the NFL in third down conversion percentage at 41.4, and they're also 20th in the NFL in fourth down conversion at 56.3%. So, again, this offense is okay. It's not great, but it's not horrible. It can convert third downs, but it's not necessarily a strength of the team. They'd like to obviously convert before third down. They're not necessarily the best at converting on third and fourth down, but they're also far from the worst team in the NFL at doing so. Comparing that to what the Detroit Lions defense has allowed this season, the Detroit Lions currently are 25th in yardage allowed in the NFL right now. They are 11th in plays ran. They are 24th in yards per play. They are 29th in turnovers forced. They are 30th in first downs allowed, and they are the worst. They are the worst scoring defense in the NFL, ranked 32nd while allowing 35 touchdowns in just 9 games. So, obviously, you look at the Panthers offense, and it's better than what we've been facing. It's better than what the, Washington football team produced, but it's not necessarily the best offense we faced this season, and it's not going to be the best offense we face for the remainder of the season. But even with that being said, this Carolina offense is more than capable of putting up points and putting, scores, putting up points on the board, and putting up big yardage versus this defense. This defense is 25th in yards allowed, and it is the dead last. It is the worst scoring defense in the NFL, and even average offenses, even below average offenses, have had very good days versus this Lions defense. Now, I know you're going to look at it and, their news came out recently that Christian McCaffery, the Panthers' #1 weapon, their best weapon on offense, is not available this week. He is very unlikely to play. He likely will not be facing the Detroit Lions. But even without Christian McCaffery, this Panthers offense can still be very, very potent. I mean, they still have Mike Daniels, Teddy Bridgewater, Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, along with a collection of other wide receivers and running backs and role players that have all contributed and all made a case to help this Panthers offense be where it is. So yes, Christian McCaffery won't be playing in this game, but just because CMC's not playing, just because one of the best running backs in the NFL is not going to be out there, doesn't mean that the Lions defense can relax, because they still have to deal with Curtis Samuel, who is a devastating weapon in both the run and the pass game. Robbie Anderson, their leading receiver, who already has 700 yards on the season in just 9 games. They have DJ Moore, who is becoming who is already one of the best young receivers in the NFL in his own right. Teddy Bridgewater, a very capable starting quarterback in the NFL. They still have Mike Davis, who might not be the best running back in the NFL, but again, still a very capable role player, still a very tough running back to bring down, and still a very good and effective running back for this offense. So, looking at the offense, looking at the Panthers offense versus the Lions defense, it doesn't look very good for the Lions defense, to be honest. I mean, yes, again, the Panthers offense isn't great, but it's definitely good enough to score a decent amount of points on any given Sunday, and especially against a Detroit Lions defense that is 32nd in touchdowns allowed and 25th in yardage allowed, along with giving up on average 47.9% of third down conversions and 61.5% on fourth down conversions. Like, this Lions defense isn't very good. It hasn't been playing very good, and this Panthers offense is more than capable of putting up points on this Lions defense. Flipping over to the Lions' strength, and strength, I use the term very loosely because the Lions still aren't very good at this either. Looking at the Detroit Lions offense, they are currently 18th in yardage in the NFL. They are currently 18th in offensive yardage. They are currently 27th in plays ran. They are 12th in yards per play. They have the 6th fewest turnovers in the NFL, which is a really good thing to see. They're not turning the ball over often, which is great for an offense. That is one of the main positives and one of the major positives for this offense. The Detroit Lions are also 16th in first downs ran, and they are tied for 20th in scoring offense with the Carolina Panthers. I don't remember the exact number, but they both had the same amount of touchdowns scored on the season. Now, the Detroit Lions are currently 21st in third down conversion in the NFL with 41.1%, and they are 12th in the NFL in fourth down conversion with 66.7%. So, kind of like the Carolina offense, this Lions offense isn't great. It's not necessarily going to wow you. It's not necessarily going to, put up 30, 40 points a game like the Packers or the Chiefs. It's not necessarily an offense that is designed to get into a shootout, especially without our #1 weapon in Kenny Golladay, who is expected to miss this game as well. So this Lions offense, in a way, reminds me of the Carolina Panthers offense, where, some days they're really good and some days they're not so good. Some days, when Stafford is on, when the quarterback is on and the play calling is good, this team looks elite and the offenses look elite. But there are also days where Stafford's off, Darrell Bevell's off, or something else in the offense is not working quite right, and they just can't get going. They can't move the ball, they can't score points, and they just can't seem to put up the numbers that they should be able to put up with all the talent they have. And it's not like the Lions, even without Kenny Golladay, are, sitting ducks. It's not like they're without weapons just because Kenny Golladay is injured. They still have Marvin Jones. They still have Marvin Hall, TJ Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift, Kerryon Johnson, Jesse James. They have a lot of other guys. They have a lot of other receivers and running backs that they can lean on, and that, running backs and wide receivers that can carry this team and be very productive for this team. But for some reason, usually they seem to be inconsistent. There's a reason that the Lions are only 21st in yardage. There's a reason that the Lions are only 18th in yardage. There's a reason that they aren't a super high scoring offense. Like, some days they look really good and they look like a top 10 offense, and then there are other days where they look like a bottom 10 offense, where nothing is going right, nothing is working, and just nothing seems to be going the Lions' way. Looking at the Carolina Panthers defense to see how good they are in regards to our offense, the Carolina Panthers currently in the NFL season are ranked 21st in yardage allowed. They are ranked 12th in plays ran against. They are ranked 23rd in yards per play allowed. They are ranked 22nd in turnovers. They are ranked 26th in first downs allowed, and they are are ranked 26th in scoring defense. They also are, and those stats aren't horrible, not necessarily great stats, but not horrible stats either. But then if you look at the conversion stats, which is where they really struggle, the Carolina Panthers right now on third down defense are the worst in the NFL, as they rank 32nd in third down conversion at 55.3%, and they rank 32nd in fourth down conversion at a whopping 100%. So teams on third down average converting 55.3% of the time on third down, and they always convert on fourth down. Not one time has the Panthers stopped a team on fourth down. Granted, it's a very small sample size, but still, not being able to stop them is not being able to stop them. So, again, this Panthers defense isn't great, but it's far better than what the Lions have to offer. The Panthers don't have a great defense. Obviously, they're not a great scoring defense. They aren't great at stopping yardage. They're not really great at anything. And in fact, they're actually quite bad at a lot of things on the defensive side of the ball. But, the Lions aren't necessarily good enough, or they haven't shown that they're good enough to take advantage of that all the time. The Lions haven't shown the consistency to take advantage of a poor defense, of a young, inexperienced defense. The Lions, they could have a really good day versus this Panthers defense, but they also could show up and have a very lackluster day. You just never know, because the Lions are two very different teams from week to week. You never know which Lions you're going to get. You don't know if it's going to be the Lions with a Darrell Bevell who's going to run the ball and commit to DeAndre Swift and make the defense commit to a bunch of different things, or if it's going to be the Darrell Bevell that commits to Adrian Peterson a couple times and then stops running the ball entirely and puts the game on Stafford's shoulders. Neither of these teams are super good teams. I think both of these teams are very middle of the road. I think both of these teams are capable of winning football games. I don't think either of these teams are teams that can be underestimated. Neither of these teams should be picking top 5 in the NFL this season. They're both very talented. They're both pretty young teams, and they're both pretty inexperienced teams, but they're both evenly matched at the same time. To me, there isn't really a clear favorite in this game, especially with Kenny Golladay and Christian McCaffrey both missing